Welcome to Sex and Breakfast, the sexy way to start your day. Dishing out sexpert advice and spicy insights about sex, love, and everything in between. Hosted by sex coaches and therapists from around the globe.
Well, hello once again, and today we are going to have not only a hot topic, I think, but maybe a hot and sweaty topic as well. So we're going to have a little bit of fun today on this topic about the connection of sex and exercise, which I'm just saying, let's talk about Sexercise.
Woo!
and and the reason I came up, or why this excited me, is because I realized like this has been a connection for me since I was a really young kid. And so a little background. So I've always been interested in just being physical. I was a dancer, I was a gymnast, I was a tennis player, I was a track athlete. Just loved to be outside, loved my body to feel strong, but also sensual, and just having that sense of, which I didn't know then, was that sense of kinesthetic awareness. So, really being able to connect with your body, to really feel your body in the environment. And I think it really had a lot to do with how I saw myself as a sexual being. Now, not as a young person, and I'll tell you this kind of funny, embarrassing story, but this is why we're here. A very personal story. So, around 6 or 7, I started as a gymnast, and I was actually a junior Olympic gymnast a little bit later on. But through our training, we'd have these training protocols, and I remember very explicitly going to the bar where you have to hang, and then you have to do these V-ups with your legs, right? So you're hanging from the bar, your toes are coming up to your hands. And we had to do, I don't know how many sets. It was a lot. But one day I felt this really interesting tingle between my legs. And I had what I now know is a coregasm, or an exercise induced orgasm. Had no idea what the hell it was, but man, it felt good. So, and I don't know, anyone can tell me if you've had this experience. Apparently, in the U.S., is about 9% of the population has experienced any gender. About 9% of the population has experienced an exercise-induced orgasm or a orgasm in their lifetime. Does anyone want to raise their hands? See, there are 5 of us, so 1 out of 5, 2 out of 5.
I'm going to do a half lift because I'm going to wish upon myself to have one in the future.
Well, and so, I mean, Donique, I don't know if you want to share in your experience.
Well, I also was a little gymnast girl, like real little, not real little. I was approaching adolescence, and I was on the balance beam, so we were doing the floor work, and we were doing cartwheels, our round offs on the balance beam, and I slipped and fell right on my cooch. So
Oh.
fell right on my vulva, split right down the. So it was like this jolt through my body. I'll never forget it. It was just like this jolt through my body that both hurt and felt amazing. And I was like shaking. I didn't even know what happened. I don't know if I wouldn't necessarily say it was an orgasm, but I would say that it was pleasurable and painful and amazing. And I don't know. Maybe it was a coregasm. I'm not sure.
Well, maybe you had a coregasm and then bruised your pubic bone.
Yes, 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 yeah. So yeah.
Well, and I did a little research to say, well, why actually, why does this happen, right? And there's a couple, schools of thought that maybe it's just the contractions that are happening over and over again with your pelvic floor, your ab wall, your thighs, your buttocks, and that contractions with exercise just kind of lends itself to the potential to have that stimulation for orgasm. And also could be the fabric, right? So if you're rubbing and you're rubbing and you're rubbing some more, that maybe eventually something good might come out of it. But the reason I bring this up is because I didn't know what it was, but I know it felt good. And later in life, as I kind of explored myself, I realized the importance of that introduction to pleasure at that age. And it all had to kind of do with exercise. And so I just thought that was like kind of fun to, like, you know I could be embarrassed about it, but the fact is like, hey, I discovered something that felt really good to me. And I think that was something that was really cool to have as a young person, because a lot of us don't have that experience, right? And I don't know if anyone else wants to share, even an exercise, not an exercise induced orgasm necessarily, but like, what is exercise? How does exercise and sex mean to you? Like, is there something that, with Dr. Norland, for example, with dance, I'm also a dancer, and I really, really feel that sense of being in flow, or like the runner's high, right, that people talk about, when you're in that space and being really present in a dance and a movement, and you're really connected to your body, and really feeling that sense of awareness that I think can express itself really well to when we're actually getting more in a sense of eroticism, and so the sensuality component to kind of go more into the erotic, into the sexual. And I'm wondering if anyone else has had an experience, whether it's been in a sport, or through something like dance or something like yoga, that has kind of piqued your awareness of your sexual self.
I'll share. This is bringing up a memory that I don't think I've thought about in years. It's just boom. Okay, so I used to sneak buying the Cosmopolitan magazine. And I don't even know if Cosmo is still a thing, but definitely was, a Cosmopolitan, for listeners, is this magazine that is sold at grocery stores. It's sold at, drugstores. It's available. You don't have to be over 18 to purchase it, but it does share sexually explicit content in the name of sexual health. And so I recall being a young teen reading a story about a woman who wrote in anonymously about how she had an orgasm while riding a horse. And that was just an eye-opening concept to me on many levels. And I think it was an early experience that normalized things on the fringes. Not only was she having an orgasm that was an accident, but it was also involving this activity that is non-sexual in nature, but if we expand outwards, could be sexual in nature. And so while that wasn't a personal experience of mine, I hold it up there now that it's coming back to me as something that colored my relationship to what pleasure could be, and the fact that she was retelling this story as something that she wanted to share, even though anonymously. It was probably a way of reclaiming that. And if she had any shame before, now it was to an audience that was welcoming to that. So I think the power of telling these stories, and thank you, Erica, for creating this space to do so, because I think there's power in telling these stories and just bringing it into our sexual experience. So horse riding, huh?
Who knew?
Well, if you rode horses when you were younger, you knew. When you were
This is true,
a
yeah.
teenage
You know,
girl, because I did. I didn't have an orgasm, but I was like, there was something happening down there. And riding bikes as well.
Definitely the riding the bikes. Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
You're like, what is going? It just felt good.
Right.
Oh, yeah. And Erica, I wanted to say, I learned about Sexercise when I was in college. I used to date a guy, and he was very into Sexercise, and he had a naked yoga book, and that was amazing. So we would do naked yoga together and practice partners yoga, which was amazing. And that was just such a turn on. But and we joke around, like my husband and I have joked around, like, you should exercise when you're having sex. That would be like to make a workout even better. Like my husband has played around and like done all these exercises during sex, and not exactly maybe this exercise you're talking about, but exercising while he's having sex with me. So
Well, and I read a statistic that sex burns only about 5 calories per minute. So that's like the average of like walking a course on a golf course. So, So if we're thinking that we can have sex to like, build muscle and stuff, I don't think we're going to quite get there, but
Right, right.
but however, like what is the best, one of the best exercises is walking, right? So I'm like, why don't we just, and use the analogy of like, okay, let's walking and sex. I mean, so they are both as important for our health as anything else, right? And I do think, so there's those natural pain relievers that are expressed during exercise, right? So it's the endorphins that we get from that. We get that high, right? That people like, if they're runners, that runner's high, and but you feel like you're in that zone, and I think that's the other part of it. Like when you're in, and I don't care if it's a sport, like if you're playing, a team sport, if it's swimming, if it's going yoga, dance. I think that there is a moment that we have when we are present with ourselves, and I think that's something that's so integral to when you think about sex and how that translates so beautifully to like when we're aware of that being in that zone or being in that flow in that space, then think about how that is just like if we have more knowledge about that and inform ourselves in those moments, how great it is then in a sexual experience to be able to really like use that information to our advantage, right? And and so I think it's the endorphins, that those are released through exercise and sex, right? So that's the, what is it, the breakdown of endorphin is like endogenous means within the body, right? And then morphine, endorphin is like pain relief, a natural pain reliever, right? So we are literally helping us to relieve pain through exercise and sex too. Also to help with anxiety and depression and other issues that can really, those types of things through exercise and sex, I think can be really beautiful to be able to help us feel healthier. And it's not that it's the going to make us healthy and that's the cure all, but it sure as hell can't hurt. And I think there's so many benefit from that we can gain, being able to do that. And I just know, like for me, in my own personal experience, having exercise, and when we say exercise too, exercise is like, yeah, we can be throwing a ball, we can be walking, we can be dancing, we can be hiking, whatever type of exercise that is. It has to feel good for us, right? And how can we continue that, whatever we do. So ladies, what sports or what activities did you do as young people that you've even carried on in through your adulthood?
Well, I grew up in a city. Jakarta is not known for its nature, but and I wasn't as lucky as some of you who were able to had an orgasm while exercising. But at this point of time in my life, I'm glad that I'm living in Singapore, because Singapore is very green for such a city country. And so I began to do a lot of walks. And here's the thing, when you do a lot of walks and you just really be in the nature, really enjoying the nature, listening to the birds, the wind, it kind of like awaken all your pleasure buds in a different way. It's such a pleasurable thing to sometimes feel on the hot day, suddenly the wind just blow on your face, or rustle of the little rustle of the leaves. um, I was attending this presentation and talking about the impact of forest bathing. um, so yeah, that's definitely one of those things that I'm starting doing now more of. Does that
Of
count?
course it does. Yeah. Of course it does. Well, because you're bringing up also the sensuality component of that, right? And I think like, softball may not be a sensual sport necessarily, right? But, I think we can make anything sensual if we have intention around it. And again, because I'm a dancer and a gymnast, a very early age, I think for me that was a really beautiful way, bringing that sensuality to the table, right? So the pleasure aspect of the taking the time, listening, tasting, smelling, and I think we can do more of that and not just think that it's, something that's not possible for us. And I don't care whether, we're young or we're entering our old age, right? I think, and exercise, whether it's walking, I think when I say sexercise, is kind of a pun, but yes, we can certainly, have that, ability for, let's go out and like, let's go get naked and, go to the gym or go to your own gym and get naked and do some of these things. But, I think it's just that that ability to have those endorphins that come up with sex and exercise. If you're blending them together, even better. But it's learning about our bodies and what our bodies are capable of, and the strength and the mobility and the flexibility and the agility that we can get from being in whatever type of exercise it might be. How that can help us along the way. Actually, and quite frankly, exercise makes us stronger. And as we age, how beautiful it is to be able to move freely during sex, even if we're in our octogenarian age. Bringing back a clients that I have, a couple clients, they're 88 and 80, 83 and 88, and they're still having sex and they're having vigorous sex. And it's wonderful to see that, just because, we're of a certain older advanced age, that's not possible for us. And I'm 54. I want to be doing that when I'm 88, 98, if I'm lucky enough. But what do I need to do to prepare my body now for those advanced years? And, oh, please, I heard someone. Take it in for, there
Well,
you go, Nicole.
yeah, no, I agree. And that's one of the reasons why, the National Institute of Health did a survey, a nationwide survey, and they found that there's a direct correlation between aerobic exercise and a decrease in ED, which is erectile dysfunction. And, even though that was the largest correlation that they found with men's sexual performance or functioning, there's so many positives that come from aerobic exercise, because as you're exercising, you're increasing your circulatory system, you're allowing more blood flow. And one of the most important things for an orgasm, for pleasure, is being able to have the blood flow go into your genitals. So if you're not physically mobile and you're not moving that on a regular basis and allowing your circulatory system to move and your blood to flow, seamlessly, it's affecting your sexual functioning. So one of the best things that you can do to help you have better sex, just from like an internal standpoint, is to exercise regularly.
And I would definitely say weight bearing activities too, especially for women who are, perimenopause, postmenopausal, being able to have the bone strength, for example, right? To be able to lift our bodies up using our own, probably what is the most dangerous thing? I think it's like over 50. What's the dangerous object in the room? It's the floor. Because if people fall on the floor, there are a lot of people who won't be able to get back up, and that is not a good thing. So I get on the floor every day because I know I don't want to be afraid of the floor. And I actually have friends who are about my age who are terrified to get on the floor. And so the more that we can, have aerobic exercise, weight bearing exercises to get ourselves as strong, I say be as strong as we can for as long as we can, because that enables us to do the things that we want to do, that we find pleasurable and satisfying well into our older years. And I'll tell you what, I want to be able to be mobile. I want to be able to have flexibility. I want to have strength when I have sex when I'm older. And yes, there might be some necessary aids that I may have to have. So maybe having a sex pillow for different positionings and things like that would be required. But I want to do the best that I can possibly do to keep myself as healthy as I can, so that I can be able to move so much more freely when I'm older. But if we can't, what do we have to live within our limitations, right? And so, if we have a limitation, that let's work around that and find the ways that we can still have sex. Because I think people just think, okay, I have a hip issue, for example. How now am I going to be able to function? How am I going to have sex with my partner? And oftentimes that might just get in their head so much that they start withdrawing from sex because they're afraid. And what do we need to do for ourselves to get us in the strongest possible condition, so that we're still going to have things that are going to happen when we get older, but how can we mitigate that to make it as optimal as we can for each other?
Actually, you just reminded me, Erica, around the role of physiotherapists. Physio in America, there's also physical therapists, right? Physiotherapists, physical therapists, or even occupational therapists. Actually, all this helping profession that can really help with rehabilitation and even modification. So perhaps we need to buy certain aid or have a good ergonomics around our sexual activities. That can be really helpful. Have you had any experience working with them, Erica?
I certainly have with pelvic floor physical therapy. So in my practice, I actually work in a pelvic floor physical therapy office. And I feel like sometimes I think it's the first line of defense for a lot of different potential dysfunction. Go see a pelvic floor physical therapist, because if you're having pain with sex, but it's just not sexual activity that our pelvic floor is responsible for. It's our posture, it's our bowel movements. There are so many other things that can contribute. So, and I think it's been great over the last, I don't know how many years that the pelvic floor PT has become more known, but prior to that, no one knew what a PT for your specifically for your pelvic floor. That wasn't even a thought. People were like, "What?" Yeah. And that we both have them, all genders. We all have a pelvic floor. It's just not women.
Talking about pelvic floor, does Kegel exercise count as sexercise?
I'm going to say no. Because that's been the thing, right? Like Kegels, do your Kegels and tighten that up, right? But I think what we're finding is a lot of us have a hypertonic pelvic floor, so we're actually too tight. So for a lot of people, they actually need to learn how to relax their pelvic floor muscles versus tighten them. Because a lot of us, we live in a stressful society, right? So a lot of us are going around, we're holding our breath, we're holding up, and what happens is that is actually making it more tight than needed. So for a lot of women and a lot of my clients I have, they may have a hyperactive pelvic floor. Their pelvic floor is so tight that there's not even room for contraction. So if there's not room for contraction, what happens? Their ability to orgasm is going to be it's going to be more difficult to do so. So the active, so having a pelvic floor physical therapist might be a really wonderful way to actually to take a look at the potentials if there are issues with pain, but with lack of orgasm, that actually might be a great place to start as well. So I know we're kind of going off, but I think that's so important. I think it's knowledge is power, right? And so being able to have access to that information, I think, is really crucial to give us all the tools that we might need in order to optimize, our not only just our sexual health, which is also contributing to our general health and wellness. So I want to stop for a minute and ask about just like I want to ask you ladies and the audience as well, like the influences of like TV and media, social media when it comes to sex and exercise. What are your thoughts on that? I mean, I'm thinking of like earlier Dominica was singing, "Let's get physical, physical," and and Jane, and think about Olivia Newton-John and Jane Fonda and Jamie Lee Curtis with all of all those movies with all those sexy dances, and I mean, I know that I got aroused watching some of this stuff, but I'm curious, like, what are your thoughts on like on the media and like and what a role that that plays with sex and exercise?
I don't know if this counts, but what I'm thinking of is rather than the media, like what I see in like athletic wear, like the shift in athleisure wear and athletic wear. Like I have some clothes that I bought from Target that were technically off the rack in their fitness section. And they are so sexy that I don't use them to work out. I use them to go out to the club because of the open back, like the cage sports bra, like paired with the right clothing. I'm wearing that to the club, to the dungeon, so I've kind of like that's an interesting influence I've noticed. I don't know exactly timeline wise when that shift occurred, but I don't remember when I was in high school, Target having exercise clothes that was so sexy. So I'm sure that's out there in the media as well. And if you look out on Instagram, for better or worse, the fitness influencers, that could be putting, they're really sexy. They're really sexy, really hot it's perfectly curated content. And I want to say this as neutrally as possible. It can be really hot to digest this material and inspiring, but also if we're not careful, we can be putting some pressure on ourselves as well if we're not using the right or a healthy lens to look through it. So I want to say that I'm embracing the content out there, and I'm embracing the sexiness of activewear. I love it. But it's just something to think about. Yeah, I think.
I think you're touching on the shadow aspect, isn't it, Dr. Norlin, around exercise, over exercise, body dysmorphia, or even body image dissatisfaction, those kind of issue. I guess there's something that, again, it comes in the continuum, right? If you go to the dark side of that can be something really, unhealthy, I suppose. And I've seen cases whereby the other partner could no longer enjoy their partner because changes in their body, no longer look athletic or no longer look certain way, and that they find it off-putting. So that's that. I think that can be food for thoughts as well, while we're touching on this topic.
And Dion, you bring something up that just made me think of something too, is like our thought of, like, attaining perfection through exercise, right? And I think because that can be something that can be very unhealthy, right? Like, I need to have the perfect body in order to be attractive to our, potential partners, right? So maybe this person is very physically attractive to others, but they don't feel attractive and they don't even feel sexy because they have this expectation that will never be met, of perfection. And so when I talked earlier about even like feeling like, so much of our body image is wrapped up when it comes to exercise and sex, right? And having the self-confidence, having the body image and self-esteem of feeling good in our bodies without the need for perfection, without the need, because you can see somebody and think, oh my gosh, she's beautiful, she's so sexy, and yet she's thinking, I'm not there yet, I still need to attain this status, this look. And I think, oh my goodness, we just need to also like step back a little bit and say, whatever we're doing for ourselves that make us feel good, instead of putting us in a state of anxiety and of this perfectionism that is just unattainable, and that is not bringing us joy. And if it's not bringing us joy and satisfaction in the way that we even perceive ourselves, then the likelihood of us being able to have a really good, pleasurable sex life is going to be limited. I was going to say, and I think at the end, really, it is about the confidence that we have within ourselves when it comes to whatever type of exercise that we choose to do for ourselves. Like, I love feeling strong. I also like feeling graceful. And how do I blend those two that makes me feel like me, number one, then also just to like invite like whatever is happening in this moment right now, trying to be really present about how I'm feeling in my body, and knowing that this is for me. This isn't something that's external. This is about me and how I feel good about myself. And I think we all need to find places where we whatever that means for us. For me, I love weight training. I love lifting heavy things. I also love dancing and being very graceful and almost, very lithe. Having both, having being strong, but also being very, being very graceful and very light. And for me, that's what works for me. And that's when I feel, I think, the sexiest is, and the most, alluring for myself is when I can have both of those. That's what works for me.
Well, I like to feel alive, so I can't run anymore because of injuries. But I like the exercise that I do that makes me feel alive and remind me of my aliveness. That can be anything really. Like even sometimes Singapore is so hot, but sometimes just stop in and say, "Gosh, I can still feel this heat and the sweat pouring out. I'm alive." And that's a wonderful thing, I
Yeah.
think.
Ooh, and speaking of sweat, we tend to write like we smell ourselves like, oh my goodness, I smell so bad. But that might just be the thing. Those pheromones and whatever smell is coming out from us can be very, very, very attractive to others, right? So
That's why they do it in
yeah.
all the adverts, isn't it? All
Oh
this,
yeah, make
you
sure that
know,
you but
people pumping iron, sweating,
and
dripping.
and and we are all attracted to different scents and different smells, right? So but I think to caution, like, okay, don't just go take a shower right away because your partner really might like the smell that you're hanging on to right now after a workout, right? That might even be more exciting than you know than just getting all clean. And like sometimes it's good to just be sweaty and like be sweaty with another person and just let, again, it's like that sensuality aspect. I think it can be really alluring during during and during and after sex,
Oh, I have a
and
question for you. What kind of exercises do you recommend that can increase or promote or yeah, our sexual vitality?
mm,
Is it squatting? Is it
I think
hanging in the monkey bar, or I don't know, any
Well, I think a
suggestion?
lot of it is what is activating like our lower body. So like the pelvic floor muscles, our ab wall, the buttocks, the inner thighs, because you think that's kind of that center for all of like the genital activation going on down there. So I mean, you could do hip thrusts. So I love to, like, you lay on your back and then you bend your knees and you stick your hips up to the ceiling. And I think about, oh my goodness, I think it's Jamie Lee Curtis in some movie, and she's got the headband on and she's got the unitard with the thong. You guys know what I'm talking about. And she's
Yeah.
just,
Yes.
she's looking at it, and it is like she's just like emanating sex. It's just sex, yeah, right.
Is
But
this
I
the
think
one
it
with
is.
John
I think it has
Travolta
to
in
work
it?
for. What's that?
Oh, sorry. Is this the one with John Travolta in it too?
Ooh, oh yes,
I
I
feel like
think
there's a
so. Yeah, I think so. It is. That's right. Yes, yes. And it's all the mirrors and it's a lot of gyrations and it's, oh yeah.
yeah, yeah.
I don't know what the name of it is, but yeah. But yeah, Dion, though, I think anything, honestly, I think anything that makes you feel good and kind of gets you that sense of vibrancy and aliveness, play around with it a little bit and see. But I think there's a lot of different things that we can do, whether we're even rolling on the floor or we're crawling. I mean, I think we can put any movement, we can make it, sensual, sexual, erotic. I used to do something called S Factor, so it involved a pole, but it also has a lot of floor work. And basically, it's not performing for anyone else; it's just performing for yourself. So the lights were low. It was actually pretty dark, and you really got to feel the full pleasure of your own body. And so you got to play around with not just with touch, but also with movements and how either a slower movement or a faster movement could feel different in your body. And then pay attention to, like, ooh, I want more of this, and so maybe I need to slow it down a little bit to really, really feel the full sensations. But that's why, like, exploring and play, I think, is so important with this, that we get to figure out what that is for each and one of us and as individuals. Does anyone have something to add
Oh,
to that? Yeah.
can
Oh
I
yeah, go
ask?
ahead.
Can
Yeah.
I ask a question to Dominique, being a
Yes, please.
tantrika? Is there any other? Well, while we are here, right, we all have different specialties and stuff. So now I'm curious about tantrika exercise,
Yeah,
tantrika or
I
tantra.
teach some clients a whole series of something called O Yoga. It's essentially orgasmic yoga. It was created by my former teacher, Sama Zadora, and it's just basically sensual movements, and there's like the beginner kind, and then it gets a little bit more in depth. But it's a real, yeah, it's a lot of moving, undulating your hips and squeezing and breathing, and really just like closing, like you were saying, Erica, just like closing your eyes and breathing and feeling your body, and yeah, and just
Dominique
turning
is
on
currently
some...
demonstrating right now for those who can't.
I think we could all. I think we could all do this right now.
In case you're just listening, she's giving us the full.
Yes, that's right. That's right. So yeah, it's a lot of like listening to, like, I'm also a dancer, like listening to your favorite music and just like being with your body movements and how that music feels inside your body. But yeah, breath and just awakening your own senses. Dion, thanks for asking.
Yeah, absolutely. And the breath, you're right. The breath can be so powerful, right? And I think it's us taking time to really figure out what that is for us. That what makes us feel sensual and what gives us pleasure. And I don't think we do that enough for ourselves because we're so busy. And and oftentimes I think we think we're being selfish for taking time to figure out what that is. And I think the more that we can access that and really just say this is something, this is intentional that I'm doing for myself. I think the more that we can do that and then be able to be in partnership with others can, like, this translation of what I feel is sensual and erotic in my body, guess what? I am going to be able to translate and express that to my partners. And I think that is so worthy of spending time on ourselves to figure that out. Well, I don't know. Is there anyone else who wants to say? I think that we could probably, I don't know if any other, last minute thoughts or takeaways from this conversation, but I know for me that this just invites me to do more of that pleasure seeking work for myself. And for me, that is, I haven't danced for a number of years, and I realize how important dance is for me. And because I have been so busy, because I don't know, just not spending enough time with really figuring out that is a big part of my pleasure center that I just have ignored. And so I know for me that I need to get back to that because I'm the happiest. I'm in my most authentic self when I'm accessing that for myself.
I think the biggest takeaway for me would probably be I love to exercise, but I have not really connected my exercising to being super sensual, especially because a lot of the exercising I do isn't very graceful. And so I'm interested in trying to just be more self-aware when I'm exercising of how can incorporate and be more aware of my sensual body during exercise next time and see what becomes awake and what I can learn from myself just by consciously being aware of my sensuality during working out.
I think I am going to find the stripper shoes that I have tucked away. Like, I used to do pole dance as well, and it's just been years and years and years, and I don't have a pole set up in this current house I'm at, but that doesn't mean I can't put the shoes on and do some floor work. I'm taking away that homework for myself to, and just like Dominique, I think she might be wearing some heels for this podcast. So, putting on heels, even though no one else is going to see them, like, do it for you. Like, it's adds to the mental landscape. And so that's what I'm going to take away.
I love it. And Dr. Norland, that's a reminder for me. I have shoes that I still have. I haven't worn them for years. And as soon as I open my closet, they're right there. They're just looking at me going, play with me, play with me. So
I know. We need to make a nice solid clap with the heels.
Oh, definitely. Oh yeah, baby. I love it. I love it. Dion, how about you?
I'm taking away the importance of body movement and dance. I might look into some dance classes because I used to go to swing dance before COVID, and that was really fun. But I stopped going there, and so yeah, maybe something like dance or so what Dominic share around some certain yoga movement or stuff. So I'm gonna investigate on that.
I love it. I love it. Well, and I think that's just important for all of us. Like, just get out and move, whatever that means for each of us as individuals, right? Whether it's intense or gentle. Like, I think movement is just such a part of what we need as humans. And we sit in chairs too much, and we're on screens, and we need to get out and play and move and touch our bodies and feel our bodies and touch other people's bodies and just feel it, baby. Yeah. Well, gentle listeners, I do hope that you will also be inspired to move and get strong. As we age, I think again, my motto is be as strong as you can for as long as you can in whatever way that is, because that'll just give us more access to pleasure and satisfaction in our olden golden years. So thank you so much. This is such a lovely conversation.
Stay tuned for our next episode. Until then, send us some love by sharing, hitting subscribe, and leave a review. It really helps us connect to more incredible people like you. If you want to learn more about sex coaching or therapy, you can find us at sexandbreakfastpodcast.com, and be sure to follow us on Instagram at sexandbreakfastpodcast. The people helping us cook this all up are Michael Merle, creating our tasty tunes, dishing out our audio and video is Max Rainier, and our delectable visual designs by Brie Vilaubi.